We shall see indeed. So, really leaning into my bank codes.
Are you?
Yeah, being a knowledge and research and development.
And we started.
We have.
Oh, good.
That's why I started like that, just to promote some bank.
Oh, no, super seat.
Ah, sure. So, it is estimated that there are 582 million entrepreneurs worldwide.
Oh, wow.
That's a mad number, right? 500
Out of 8 billion.
out of 8 billion, 582, 33.2 million are in the US.
The question is are they real entrepreneurs? Are they business owners?
Well, these stats from Demand Sage is basically they separated it between business owners and entrepreneurs.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. So this is just entrepreneurship stats.
Take 3.5% of 8 billion. 3.5% of 8 billion. Be interesting to see what this is. 3.5%. The 8 billion. 8 billion is 8,000 million, yes? Is that right? Yes.
Yeah.
Times 3.5%. 280 million. So 570 million, you said?
582.
582 million. So about 7% of the world's population. And Gino Wickman says that 3.5%, he estimates 3.5% of the world's population are visionaries.
Mm-hmm.
And visionaries take care of 2/3 of all jobs created in the world. And real visionaries are the real top-end entrepreneurs. Create stuff, make change, employ thousands of people.
So this is the interesting piece of that. And I think this is where that number, I feel like this is why this number is so inflated, right? So it says only 10% of startups are able to succeed in the long run. The startup failure rate is 90%.
Oh, yeah. But I think that's been I mean, ever since I started teaching, that number's been 90 to 95% of all business owners will fail within 8 to 10 years.
Why is that?
Why not?
What do they suck at? Elaborate.
I think the first thing is we're not taught to run a business.
Yeah.
So we go to school, you're taught to be an employee. You don't learn how to run a business.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find yourself in a business. And you're doing part of a business. But you're not a business owner. So you have some skills in a business. So I was sales director. Doesn't mean I could run a business, because I ran sales.
You ran a sales department.
Well, I ran a sales team. I drove revenue in my business, but I wasn't responsible for VAT and for tax and for making sure that money came in and for raising capital and for producing goods and procuring goods. And when I went into my own business, suddenly I was like, shit, I got to do all this stuff myself. So I think one of the biggest things that I've observed is many people go into a business and treat it like a job. If I work hard, I'll get paid. Cock, in a business, if you work, you get paid. You get paid in a business to work.
Yes.
You don't get paid for results.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're paid for showing up.
An entrepreneur gets paid for results. Nothing else. I can show up 18 hours a day, Sully. If I don't make money, I don't pay myself. But if I was working for you, I can show up 18 hours a day, deliver on what we agreed to deliver on, but if the results don't come in, you're still obligated to pay me. Is that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think that's one of the first things is people aren't taught to run a business and build a business. Then they go get an MBA and they think, oh, I know how to build a business. That's the theory behind building a business.
So how do I, and this is something you so it's funny because Michaela and I were talking about this yesterday, and we actually spoke to you on the phone afterwards. You were absolutely cooking yesterday at Ignite Your Sales, and you were talking around exactly this MBAs, the theory of it all. So I've gotten my MBA. What are my next steps in your view? Not from the MBA's perspective, from your view. What should I do once I've gathered my MBA or I graduated?
I can't advise you on that because I don't have an MBA. I've never.
Well, you've run a business.
I've never had to worry about that.
You've run a business.
Running a business and having an MBA are two very different things.
How so?
Getting an MBA is you have to go to university or wherever they teach MBAs, MBA school. You study, you write an exam. Yes, you do some practical stuff, but you don't have, many people that have MBAs work in the corporate world.
Oh, that's true. That's very true.
Right. This is fascinating. I built sales teams, and I've spent most of my life, majority of my life in sales.
Yeah.
Teaching salespeople, building sales teams, building my own sales teams, building my own businesses. For nearly 20 years, I've traveled around the world teaching, training, and equipping sales teams. I probably wouldn't get a job in most big corporate companies as a sales manager, as a sales director, because I don't have an MBA. But the same people will bring me in to come and equip their teams.
That's crazy. What, I mean, how does that make sense?
Well, it doesn't make sense, but the reality is because where my skills come from, I've practically applied them.
Yeah.
I've practically applied them in business. I go out. If I don't close deals, I don't eat. It's very simple. When I was employed as a sales rep, if I didn't close deals, I still got a basic salary. I was never happy with a basic salary, which is what drove me to close deals, because I worked on commission more than anything. But if a deal didn't come through this month, I still paid myself.
Okay.
In my businesses, and until your business becomes established and you create a solid cash flow and you have money that's put aside, and you have cash flow that's coming from assets, most businesses live from month to month. And if they don't close the deals that they need now, next month's a hard time. And the business owner's going, oh shit, how am I going to pay myself? You know, I do a deal with you. You promised to do the deal this month. You don't do it this month. When you're at that stage in your business, it's like, oh cuck, now the money's not coming in. How am I going to do this? Then, and that's what people don't see. But and that's the journey that makes it so hard. So what the first thing your question was, why is it that 90% of businesses fail?
Yeah.
One is, I think, because there's a misconception of what a business is. Total misconception of what it is to run a business, have a business, build a business. Many people want to have a business. What the fuck, excuse my language, what does it mean to have a business?
That's a great question.
So you have a business, give it to me, I have a business.
Yeah.
Great, so now I have a business, it's my name. What does that mean? Does it mean I know how to run it? Does it mean I know how to drive it? No, so what the real word is, I need to build a business.
Yeah.
Not have a business, build a business, like a house. People want to have a house. Build a friggin' house. You know, you can sit around waiting for someone to give you a house so you have a house. Great.
Yeah.
And that's what many people are doing. They're waiting to have a business, waiting to have money. Okay, it's money's created by learning how to make money, learning how to sell, learning how to do deals. Businesses are built by learning how to build businesses. And I think that's one of the missing pieces that people just don't get in their heads. It's like, if I register a business, have some products, I'm going to have this business and make money.
They're gonna flock.
You friggin' you might as well go, I don't know, smoke something, because you have more chance of funding the fairies than you do if you think that. But does that make sense?
100%.
The other thing in a business, and it has been, and I've seen this statistic for years and years and years, the other reason small businesses fail, or businesses fail, is cash flow. So not passion to drive, not a good product, but cash flow. And where does cash flow come in? One, don't sell enough, not enough money coming in. And two, absolute lack of financial acumen. Don't understand money. Don't understand where it comes from, how to work with it, where it goes. I mean, you've heard me a lot of times. I say people start a business, they borrow some money. Well, when they borrow the money, the first thing they do is eat the money.
Got it.
Okay, the money's not for eating, but that's what people do.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of my favorite sayings in Africa. We take money, we eat it. Cuck, man. But isn't that true?
No, that's exactly what it is.
So we take this, they get a loan and they eat it. How do they eat it? Buy nice clothes, look all good, get an office, big car, and then they go, now what? I have no money to run my business. So the deal is don't eat it. Take it, buy the product or the service that you require, sell the product and the service, make profit, keep that profit, pay off your loan. Okay, don't need to pay off your loan, get out of debt. Now you can build your business. So you're not encumbered by owing anything to anyone.
Yeah.
So what happens is someone goes out, they take the money, let's say they put it into a product, they sell the product. Then they eat the money that should be going back to the person that they owe money to. And that person saying, where's my money?
It's been tough, man.
It's tough, man. It's a tough month. Did you go, where did you get the car from? Where did you get the laptop from? Where did you get that stuff from? You know?
Why does that happen? Like, why? Because, I mean, you've had offices. It's not that you've never had offices, but having an office has never been like your go-to thing.
Because I mean, depending on what business you have, if I had a restaurant and I'm in the restaurant business, I'd be very focused on environment, very focused on creating the right environment so people come in. But we're in the training business. I utilize other venues.
Yeah.
So I become very clear on what type of venues I want. We don't have a lot of people that come to our offices.
No.
You know, when we had our offices at our own venue, different. I was very focused on developing a nice venue.
Yeah.
A venue. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But my offices don't make my business. Okay. My car doesn't make my business. You know, when I first started my business, I drove a little Honda i20. Why? Because it was financially practical, and I didn't want to encumber it. Burden myself with a stupid debt on a car that I couldn't afford or didn't want to afford.
It's still one of the best cars on the planet.
They lack a little cars, you know.
My car.
And I can remember one of my mates saying to me, how can you drive a little Hyundai i20 when you're trying to teach people how to make money? I said, what's me building a business selling got to do with driving a Hyundai i20? No, you need to have the right image. I said, Tim, that's your problem. You're focused on image. I'm not focused on image. It was a practical, and the reason I bought that car actually had nothing to do with my image. It had to do with the fact that I made stupid financial decisions on cars. So I made a decision, said to Nicole, I am not going to make a huge financial mistake. I'm going to buy a car that gets me from A to B, and I'm going to drive it for the next 3 or 4 years until I get that desire out of my mind. And so one, it was for that. Two, when I was ready to get the car I wanted, and it made financial sense, I bought the car I wanted for financial sense. It's not a
little bit of financial literacy there.
Yeah, 100%. Because a vehicle's not an asset. It doesn't make money. It chews friggin' money. So, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a lacquer car. I do. I have a really nice C180 AMG. I love it.
It's beast.
But it doesn't define me. It doesn't define my success. It doesn't define my business. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of business owners get so lost in that stuff rather than keeping the main thing the main thing. The main thing is when you start to create a solid financial base for your business. There's another reason, Silly, is people surround themselves with the wrong people. You know, small business owners will try to do their own accounts. And then they try to do their own accounts. That's not their skill. Even if they are a bookkeeper, even if you are a bookkeeper, you shouldn't do your own books because no one can hold you accountable. So they have a lack of financial acumen. They're not sure what a bookkeeper should do. They try to do their books themselves, or when they hire a bookkeeper, they hire someone and they don't get what they should get. And when it comes down to money and finance, they don't manage it properly. Many small to medium-sized businesses manage their business on a bank account. How much money have we got today? Oh, we can buy something. Oh shit, there's no money. We better go try and find it. Rather than, projecting cash flow forecasts, sales funnels, all that sort of thing, and then getting out, learning the skills on how to do that.
So this was actually probably and I've learned a lot from you over the years. Yesterday was actually a profound moment for me. You were speaking to one of the guys at Ignite Your Sales, and you'd asked him, what do you want to generate in the next year? He said 10 million. And I was even like, okay, that's a large number. And then you said, okay, how much are you generating right now?
Yeah.
And I think he had said something like 10. No, yet you asked him that and he wasn't sure. And then you asked him, when was the last time you made $1 million?
Yeah.
And he was like, I haven't. And you then said, how about you aim for that first, or aim for 10,000 or 100? Yeah. Do you also think that that's probably a massive problem with startups, with young entrepreneurs coming into coming into the space, they go, okay, I want to make 10 million of this business.
No, because it sounds good.
Mm,
They have no idea how to make 10 million.
yeah.
Sully, how many young people have you met today going, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire? And you go, how's your business going? I don't have a business because I'm waiting for someone to give me funding.
Too many.
How the
Too many.
friggin' heck are you going to make 10 million when you don't know how to make $5?
Yeah.
When you're not prepared to go out and borrow a little bit of money to turn that money, because that's ultimately what it is. So we have this. I think there's this ego thing that gets in the way, that I'm not a successful businessman unless I'm making lots of money. I mean, when I asked the question in that room, did you see the fear of people to actually put up their hand and speak about how much they make? It was like, what happens if people know that I don't make any money? People can see you don't make any money. They can friggin' hear by your language you're friggin' broke.
Yeah.
You know, Robert Kiyosaki, he always used to say to me, Barry, I can smell broke people.
Mm.
You can, because they're trying to pretend to be rich. Don't pretend. Just get out there, own what you have, friggin' do the grind, move to the next level, learn how to make 1,000, then 10,000, then 20,000, then 100,000. Over time, you'll build to 10 million if that's what you want.
Mm.
But you have to be clear on how you're going to get there. But if you can't see how you're going to make 10,000, how the friggin' heck can you see? I mean, when I opened up the funnel for them and I said, okay, so last year you had 200 clients at an average of 5,000 each. So they made what? They made R1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So how are you going to get to 10 million? Your average transactional value is 5,000. You need to get 2,000 clients. Sitting there, they went, I could see in their minds like,
It was.
oh shit.
That's
Because the number changed the game. The number 10 million is one thing. But now you have to think, if my average transactional value is $5,000 and I made R1 million this year, if I want to 10x that, well, the start of the simple model is, if my model is going to stay the same, I have to find 2,000 customers.
Yeah.
Can I service 2,000 customers? No. What that means is I have to employ some people. I have to do this. What that means is my overhead structure is going to grow. There's a whole lot of complexities that come into that, but people don't see it. I'm going to make 10 million. I'm going to make 50 million. My favorite is I'm going to be a billionaire. I'm like, get real, man. It doesn't make sense. It is,
Something that I've also learned from you is, like, you speak about being a business owner, but more so being an entrepreneur. You've always said that it's a lonely place. Running a business is a lonely place.
Yeah, running a business is a lonely place. You're on your own. What, Sully? We go from being an employee to being self-employed. Okay, self-employed. That means on your own. On your own. That's how you start. It's you. You have an idea. Then you have to attract people. It's a friggin' lonely place.
Mm. So how important for you?
It's like leadership's a lonely place. The higher you get up in an organization, the smaller your very clear circle of advisors and people are.
How important is it to get that? Like, as a start, like if you're starting up as an entrepreneur, how important is it to get a group of people?
When I look back on my, 32 years of working, and it's not only as being a business owner, it's in any position you have in business. Who are you taking advice from? Who's your mentor? Who are you sitting down? Who are people that have done things that you've never done? Who can give you honest perspective that's not swayed by, you go home and you sit with your wife 100%, but it's very hard when you're working in an environment to ask your wife for advice. Why? Because she's got to be biased. She's going to be biased. She's going to protect her interests and your interests. So there's always, the ability to find people around you who are going to be unbiased, who are going to guide you in the direction that you need to go, and give you the truths that are the truths versus the mask stuff. That's very important. I think when I look back on running my own businesses, and particularly this training business for nearly 20 years, one of the hardest things has been isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get to a certain level where you can see and do things which your team can't. They can't because they're not big enough to see that.
Yeah.
So now you're in that perspective of, well, yes, I can put it to them and they'll go, yes, that sounds good, but they honestly don't understand it or can't see it. And that's not an indictment of them. They're just not at that level. So I just learned that I need people around me that can see more than I can see, or that can that can see what I can see, but then pick holes in it because they see it for what it is, not pick holes in it because they don't see it. Does that make sense? And they don't see the fears. One of the worst things I think you can do in business is surround yourself with yes people. Yes, 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 because everyone will say yes. Why? Because they're scared to say no, and then they won't do it. It's a rough. It's the bigger the game you want to play, the bigger the people you got to hang out with. So, Kelly Ritchie, one of my mentors from many years ago, had a wonderful saying that I teach called "Environment is greater than will." Who are you hanging out with? When you're hanging out with bigger people, they will help you become bigger. It's the one-eyed man in the land of the blind is king, but you put him in the land of the two-eyed man, he's no longer king. So it's great to hang out in that area because I feel big, but that's going to limit me. One of the greatest. I've had wonderful teaching from Robert Kiyosaki, and I've been very blessed. But the 3 years that I spent learning from him and teaching with him and being on stage with him and having my butt kicked, it was tough because he's done stuff and built stuff and been places and built businesses like I can dream about. Does that make sense? But being in his environment and being prepared to learn from him and being prepared to take the butt kicking and take the learning grew me.
Yeah.
Was it always nice? Definitely not. But people don't want that. You know what they want is, look at me and Robert Kiyosaki and I got a nice photo and use it for marketing, but they don't really grow it. Like, that time I grew. Why? Because so when it was the same with Blair Singer. That's why I wanted to work with Blair, because he had built a business like I'd never built, spoken on stages like I'd never done, was teaching people and helping people change. And that was my driver. So who are you as a business owner? As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, but even as in management, in your own personal life, who are you hanging around with that can help you become bigger, that can call you on your bullshit? Because that's the deal.
Yeah.
Is be called on your bullshit to play at a higher game. And I think that's, in businesses, you talk about why small to medium-sized businesses fail. I think if I draw back to one key thing, because many business owners are not working on growing themselves. And when it becomes really tough, they're not big enough to handle it. And if you are prepared to push through the heat, you'll grow and come out the other side and you'll build a bigger business. But a lot of times people have this fanciful idea of a business. And if I register the business and I start it and I do a wonderful 31-page business plan, I'm going to get money and everything's going to be rosy. And at the end of the year, I'm going to have this great business because it says so in the books. Cock, man. And halfway through it, COVID comes. And then how do you handle that? Because the MBA doesn't teach you how to handle COVID. You have to, it's your being that lives there. Make sense?
That makes sense.
There we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Uncovering Greatness podcast. My name is Sully. This is Barry. We'll see you guys next week.